Hello, everybody. This is Joe Brown. Another episode of The Real Game Unplugged. What does that mean? We're going to have some real talk, certainly about the soccer world today. We're going to talk about some of our team members that come on USFT Sports. And we have a lot of experts. And this is our coffee talk. This is the time that we can actually just talk about things that affect us. And hopefully, at the end of the day, if you can get 2 or 3 takeaways from our conversations, I think we're helping people. What I have on today, which is pretty special, all right, Erik Imler is a very decorated player that has come to the U.S. ranks. Certainly, I'm proud to know him, and I learned from him as a coach, and I saw him grow up as a player and go through his career. But Erik, his background is played for the United States, all the youth national teams. He represented us in the Pan American Games, won a gold medal. He played in Barcelona on our Olympic team. He won 3 national championships at University of Virginia. He has coached in different clubs at different levels. He's in a club situation now where he works with younger players. And he's also coached at the collegiate level on the women's side of soccer. Erik is a player that you probably can't break the mold on what he's done and the environment he came through and how we had our system in youth soccer back in the day and where we're at today. So this is our talent. This is part of our team. These are the people that can help our coaches, can help our families, help our kids. And all you have to do is get on USFTsports.org. You can find everybody's bio and making sure that if there's something that we can do to help you, we're here to help you. So good morning, Erik. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. Happy to join you, Joe.
Yeah. So me and Erik have worked on this project for a while, and we're, getting out of the soft launch and starting to get into the thick of things for the pre-World Cup. But Erik, I just want to talk to you. You work with kids that are, 8 years old, probably to maybe 11 or 12.
Yeah, we title it Youth Academy in these parts. It's the 8s, 9s, and 10s primarily.
So tell me, in today's world, we throw the word academy out too much. What's your vision? What do we know what academy is in Europe and South America and other parts of the world, but in our pay to play system, which will never change, right? We're not going to change that. It's capitalism, and I understand that. But tell me what's your vision when you say academy with these kids? What are we trying to do with these young players?
I think just like anybody at the charge of trying to develop a player or run a program at whatever age, whatever title you give it, everybody's trying to do the right thing. We're trying to develop players to be successful on the field and be prepared to take the next step, whatever that next step may be. So I understand what you're saying about the academy and how the term is used. But I think at the end of the day, we're all just trying to look at a group of players and come prepared to run a quality training session. And hopefully over time, we're moving them in the right direction towards what we term development.
And what are you in the modern game today, in the social sets and society of youth soccer, when you're working with that young age group, because you've worked with high level players, college players, working with the young players. And I believe, and I'll always say that a lot of our clubs, their best coaches are working with the older kids. And I think we need to have some of the best coaches working with the younger kids to build that foundation, whatever it might be, between technical stuff, teaching them the game, but also having fun, right? Because if they don't have
Sure.
fun, they're not coming back. And
Sure.
then how do you deal with that introduction into an academy type system to the young parents that they don't know where they're going? They don't know the narrative of what's going to happen to them if their kids excel, and the cost and the social changes they're going to have in life with travel soccer and things like that. How do you educate parents on that kind of stuff?
Well, in the programs I've been involved with, the programs are quite large. So I don't go about it and say, okay, I'm going to try and educate all of you. I'll throw little snippets in here and there, and it's kind of like throwing bait in the water. And who's going to nibble on it? Who wants to learn more? Who's going to engage you in conversation? It's a running joke. We're just going through tryouts right now. It's a running joke that I stand in front of them and ask them if they have any questions after I give my blurb on the program and how it works. And I'm looking at, 75 parents. Do they
They're
have
all
any
ghosts. They
questions?
don't want to say anything.
Yeah, they're all scared to say anything. They don't know what to ask. And
Do you
yes,
do
they
you
had.
think that's part of our emotional hostage that we've created in youth soccer? Do you think they're scared? Do you think we're not approachable? Because you're going to get emails the next day on the questions they could have asked you right there when you were in front of them.
Yeah, I think a majority of the folks that I'm talking to are coming from a situation that they didn't get a whole lot of information, and now they're being thrust into this platform, and I'm sitting here telling them that, you're going to go from a one night a week practice with your recreational team to now we're going to have two mandatory nights. The session's going to be longer each night. Plus, you can come to an additional optional training each week. And if you're a goalkeeper, that could be a fourth night. So I think it's a little bit of shock in that opening meeting. And then uh, you know, I say it all the time. If you're looking at 10 families, uh, 8 or 9 of those families, they're there, they're just happy to be there, right? And
Right.
they're holding on for dear life, and they're following the parent next to them. They're just going where they say to go. And then you've got the very small percentage, the 1 or the 2 in a small group that are going to say, you know what, I'm into this. I want more. Yeah,
Mhm.
my kids got something about them. Where can we get more? How do we do more? How do we push this agenda a little bit? So, when it
So,
comes to
so,
development, those
so,
those that small percentage are the ones that are typically gonna, quote, "develop" at a higher rate than everyone else and move on.
so you were talking about a village yesterday, right? But I
Mhm,
think
mhm.
what do you do when you got 75 kids that are in the trials for your academies, and you'll have a certain amount of teams that you'll pick? What do you do? And when you first start or you look at these kids and 40% of them are athletic, they might have the deal, right? We can all see right away pretty quickly who the kids are athletic. We can see which ones they kids you can see that kids have it, right? Then you have the
Sure.
ones that are okay. They want to be there. They're trying to be there. But now you get into a setting and then you're going to do training and you're going to be teaching them technique and you're going to be teaching things about the game. How do you balance that out when you have half the group or part of the group that can't keep up? What do you do with that?
Well, it makes the training a challenge, and I'm fortunate enough in running the program that I coach the top teams in the age group. So the buy-in from the players and the buy-in from the parents is at a much higher percentage than the second team or the third team or maybe even the fourth team of players. Um, but I stress over and over again that when we run a training session, we have to be efficient because we don't have a ton of time with them. We get an hour and a half twice a week, and if we're going to really develop a player, we need some lifting to be done at home. And that's where the village comes in. If
Yeah.
mom and dad won't allow the games on TV, or there's not a sibling around that's spending time in a field, or their best buddies aren't junkies as well, the likelihood of that player, reaching the small percentage of excellence, it's a more difficult road to hoe. So, um, you look at all the factors that are going into that kid's village and determine, hey, does this kid love it? Does he have the external stimuli around him that's going to get him on a field, get him on a ball, get him in a pickup game, every single day? Is he going to be around it? Is he going to be soaking it in through osmosis in some way, shape, or form? Those are the kids that really have a chance.
But when you say a pickup game, we all used to do pickup games, right? The kids
Sure, sure.
don't, they just don't go out in the neighborhoods or the playgrounds and play anymore. So I
Yeah,
think a lot of clubs have had artificial, free play nights, right? Which I
yeah,
think is
yeah,
important. They just need to, the coaches mess things up sometimes, right? They just get too
absolutely.
involved, right? They need to let kids make mistakes and let their brains try to work it out. We try to teach them the things when they have, non-success on some aspects, either on both sides of the ball. How do we get them as quickly as possible over their time span to be able to do self-correction and things like that? So when you're talking about getting them out, because my best players I had, they trained on their own. They just loved the ball, right?
Yeah,
They ate it up, right? And they
yeah,
liked sports in general. When they were playing baseball, they loved wearing the uniform. They couldn't wait for game day. They couldn't wait for practice because practice really has to affect, how you play in the game. And, that's kind of your measuring stick when you see these things going on with young kids. How do we
sure.
get kids to get into free play without all the coaching? How do we get them to that? How do we get them to that point? Because we miss that. I mean, and you look around the world, they're not all structured and organized like we are in some aspects. And the kids still develop because they're playing with older brothers. Dads, your first coach might have been your dad and he would have been amazing. And they put you in little small environments and pockets. But what you just said, are they watching the game? Are they actually
Yeah,
sitting down once a week and watching the game, or is it just a social event for them?
yeah. Well, I mean, you know this better than anyone, Joe. It's a slow burn, and you're just hoping that you check enough boxes, and you're around it enough to get your quote 10,000 hours, and you're getting your touches, and you're learning how to do it properly. Um, the hard part is that everybody feels like they gotta hire it out. They gotta hire a private trainer. They've got to do this, and they got to do this, and they got to keep up with the Joneses of what everybody else is doing. Uh, you know, I know it's difficult to self motivate, especially early on, but it doesn't need to cost a fortune. You just have to be internally motivated to train properly, do the right things, and continue to challenge yourself and, be creative. Like, okay, I constantly say, hey, just juggle, just a ball on a wall, smash a ball against a wall, juggle, dribble, right? And find pickup games with your friends. I mean, that right there, none of it costs a thing. But because players don't know what to do, um, they don't have those influences around them. They can't find a pickup game because today's world isn't like it used to be. Everything's more of a challenge. So the formula
I
is pretty simple, but
Yeah, but I think what you said is a lot of places in our country and, where we came from, we had a lot of that stuff available right there because it was part of the culture. When you would go out and play and you knock the ball around and you would just do things. Um, club wasn't e club was fun, club was awesome, but there was things that you did, I think today that 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old kid, they wanna develop, they wanna be on the top teams down the road. Some of them might just wanna enjoy the ride, and hopefully they
mm,
love playing the game for the game, but they have so many things going on in their mind. They got they gotta play soccer, then, they might be doing karate on Wednesday night, then they might be playing piano on Fri how when you say that they have to buy in from the family, and this is, from what we teach in our companies, the parent education aspect, and that's the low hanging fruit because the parents, they are responsible because they no matter what the cost is, it is an investment. And I believe people should pay for good instruction. A pay to play will never be fixed. It's just the return on investment. What are you getting, whether you're paying a piano instructor or you're paying the plumber to come fix your house? what is the return on your investment? And everything's in youth sports today, and certainly the younger age, it's just clinical. We're having practice Tuesday and Thursday nights. What they need to do, do you give them things to do when they're not with you, and then look at some of the homework or the things that you've asked them to do when they come back to a next session? Do you see if they've improved on that, on stuff they don't need a coach for?
Yeah, I mean, there's always challenges thrown out there to kids or to a small group and say, "Hey, can you do this?" For example, with our U8s, U9s, and U10s, we got a little juggle club, right? Can you get to 50 juggles? And if so, you'll win this jersey, and we make a deal of it on social media. And okay, it's a little challenge out there, right? Juggling's not easy. But it's like riding a bike. Once you learn to juggle, you'll never forget how to juggle. And I always say, like, you're not going to be juggling during a game, most likely, but show me a good player who can't.
Right,
It's just part of the soup.
right.
So, spend time with a ball, juggle, dribble, smack a ball against the wall. There's countless videos of big time players that everybody's familiar with, and they all grew up the same way doing the same things, right?
Yeah,
It's playing with their buddies with no adults or referees or those factors are absent. They got a game, they got two bags, throw them down, let's play, let's just get after it and experiment. And what works, what doesn't. Um, you know, with these young ones, I'm constantly stressing, what's the score? Are you winning? Are you losing? If you're winning, what do we need to do differently to secure the victory? If we're losing and chasing the game, what do we need to do differently to change our outcome? Trying to get them to think differently, to be competitive, because I feel like that was kind of built in when I was coming through. And then, now it's participation and now it's everybody's included and everybody's equal and all of that stuff. So I feel in my approach to it, we got to coach them out of it, right? Hey, yes, we're going to give everybody a chance because of your age. We're going to give you equal time because of your age. But please understand that in any group, big or small, there is a pecking order, and people
yeah,
probably know what that pecking order is.
yeah.
And so
Oh, yeah,
constantly setting up environments where, hey, you guys pick your teammates.
yeah,
You pick them, right? Okay, you're the captain of this group, you're the captain of this group. You got first pick. Who do you pick?
yeah.
And
And and
hopefully
and
yeah,
I
it's playground
I've always
rules.
yeah, I've always said this because society has changed. I learned from older guys on the park, right? And there was no referees or no parents around. When you talk about the pecking order, pretty much when you showed up, you knew where you were, right? And if the older guys left, maybe you got some more time in, but you watched for a little bit. And then if they had to go to dinner, you finally got some time on the field, right? So there's a pecking order that's a natural pecking order. And you take referees and parents and all that stuff around it. I think kids are missing that aspect to understand in their groups because neighborhoods have changed, right? We don't have the neighborhoods and the community stuff that we had before because everybody's got to go to, what youth soccer has done or youth baseball, whatever sport it is. They're facilitators, right? The clubs are facilitators. They got great facilities. They have really good coaches in the top end of their club, but then all the clubs, you dilute the tea because they're trying to find people to facilitate that team, right? So we're in that
Mhm.
society right now where the babies really need to get that foundation and taught that it's okay. You don't have to just always go to practice twice a week to actually learn, find other find other avenues or play with older kids. And if they have older siblings, how do we get them to get into that mindset that just I want them to play with the ball. I want them always on the ball because I can teach a tactical session with the ball and have fun, right? So, but the thing is, you can't have lines. You just, to this day, I'll still go out and watch, even my grandkids, I'll go and watch the practices and the same coaches are got 8 cones out and they're dribbling through and there's 9 kids behind them and nobody's moving. This game is all movement, right? So you need to show them early in the game how their body works.
Well,
It's
well,
okay
here,
to
here,
go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So we've hinted on it before, but um, the youth academy world, the eights, nines, and tens. My problem in running a program is, um, it's not where coaches want to live. Why? Because uh, if you're a young coach trying to make it, you're looking at your pay to time ratio, right? Like, how much
Okay.
money can I make for my time? Well, I'm not a very experienced coach, so let me go cut my teeth down with the young ones. But as you referenced earlier, everybody's trying to move up in the world and coach better teams because everybody wants to win. You want to compete for more um more trophies, more
More
accolades,
Yeah,
all of
more
that.
fake trophies. More
Yeah.
fake trophies.
Yeah, so everybody wants to do that, and on top of that, your numbers grow if you're coaching 11v11 versus 7v7, right? So
Right.
there's gonna be more money in it. So, any coach that I think might have some talent, when I get them at the 8s, 9s, and 10s, I know right away I have them for a year, maybe 2 at the most before they say, "All right, time for me to fly the nest. I wanna go coach 11v11 in classic soccer," or whatever. So, I understand that part, but it's a business. I mean, that's the worst part about it. It is a business, for the club side, for the coaches side. Why are we doing this? And where do we wanna live? Fortunately, I'm old and gray now, and I've chased all that, and I've got a real job. So I got a job that I work 9 to 5, and I can live in this youth academy world because I'm not reliant on the paycheck that comes solely from coaching.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not the situation with young coaches that are getting into it, or, the other coaches I get are the moms and dads that have a kid in the program. Either way, they're not going to last in my program very long before they fly the nest and move on somewhere else. So it's a constant churning of every year. I got to find new coaches. I got to get new coaches in. Where I was going with all this is that when it comes to teaching the game in our youth academy program, there's always a push and pull of what do we do? What do we do at this age group? What is most important? Well, how many arguments out there say technique, 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 technique at the young ages? I don't disagree whatsoever. I agree. I think all of us who've been doing this for long enough have coached that stereotypical Corver player that
Right.
is light years technically more proficient than his teammates. But I think most of us would come to the conclusion that that Corver player is also he kills your team because his head
He's
is
blind.
down. His head is down. He plays in like a 5-foot radius around himself. He wants to beat a player, by a nutmeg or skinning him, but he can't accelerate or won't accelerate and change his picture. So he beats him. The defender comes back. He has to beat him again. Defender comes back. He has to beat him again. He goes nowhere. Those players are very frustrating to me. But I also understand that in order to play an attractive game that is entertaining to watch, and anybody would say that was good, entertaining soccer, you need players that can pass and trap.
Yeah.
But if we only have, this is the argument I always make to these young coaches, if we only have an hour and a half twice a week, how are you going to spend your time? Because look, a successful training session is one in which the kids leave wanting to come back the next day for more.
Yep.
That is how I
I
encapsulate
agree.
a successful training session. They
Yep.
must have fun.
Yep.
And what is fun for a player? Fun for a player is play. playing a game. How many times do you hear, "When are we gonna scrimmage?" Yes,
Right.
they wanna play a game.
They want
So
to play.
as a coach, I'm saying, "Look, I understand as an adult who's played this game and understands this and has gone through the process, you understand that they need to have technique."
Yeah.
Yes, very, very true. They need to have technique. But if you lose their excitement and bore them to tears with technique because
And drill,
you as an
drill.
adult planned it because you're saying this is important, just please don't lose them don't lose their engagement to wanna be there and wanna play. So if
Yep.
you can balance, okay, a little bit of technique because we know it's important and we need the repetition, and most importantly, we know if we don't do it here in our hour and 15 minutes or hour and a half, it's probably not gonna get done at home. Why?
Yep.
Because we're not motivated enough. Okay, get to the game as fast as possible so they enjoy it, so they run, so it's basically you're creating a pickup game. Don't
Yeah.
overcoach it. Let them make mistakes. Let them, so I don't have the magic formula, but this is an argument I have, not an argument. It's a it's a conversation I have with young coaches or new coaches into my program every single year is we need to be economical.
Yeah.
And so the biggest win is you get a kid who wants to take a bigger bite of the apple. Those are going to be the ones that want to do more. They're also probably going to be, if you ask them some questions, they're going to have an older sibling who plays or another sibling who's on a field all the time, or, their parents were players or, whatever. It's built in. It's the village. It's working. It's
Yep.
got a lot of the things that are moving us in the right direction. That's the small percentage of that small group that will take a bigger bite of the apple and say, "What more can I do?" And those are the ones you give the little challenges to. And you say, "Okay, look." And at the end of the day, those are the ones that you're probably gonna kick on and say, "Hey, okay, we need to change your environment here. We need a bigger challenge."
Yep. And and let's just talk about your journey as a youth player that you came through. You played club, you played with some very good players, you moved through the ranks. Back in the day we had, the state teams, then you had the regional teams, and you moved into the national pools, and nothing was and you didn't get charged. At every level you went for, you still I think it was a to me, my debate I always had over the years was with 4 regions was not enough. We should have broke ourselves in probably 12 regions for regional teams, right? Because we could add more in the player pool to really look at. But I think a lot of the top coaches went there, but the world changed because we went into super clubs and then super teams, and things have changed, and the money and all of that stuff comes. So my question is, as we're having this conversation, is where is the individual development for these kids when you have a coach that has to have 2 teams on a tournament weekend, right? How do they prepare themselves, try and go into another field or getting in their car, going to another field, whatever it might be. We're facilitating for tournaments, match play. When we played, we had 1 game a week, maybe 2. And then when you went to a tournament, it had stake in it, right? It wasn't just the billion-dollar industry that they have now, but we've already drank that Kool-Aid. You're not gonna change it. So at the end of the
Right.
day, with society, when the cost, let's say your travel team costs you $0, just the cost of hotels, travel, food, and the economy that we actually have today, 2 people can go out to dinner at $60 now, right? How do people that have multiple kids in the family afford this? And when you grow up, where you grew up in your area, you could have unbelievable games within an hour drive. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, yeah,
great game. Now we're
yeah,
traveling to Seattle and LA and places like that.
yeah. And look, as you alluded to early on, I feel like the system it's gotten out of control. I think I was incredibly fortunate to grow up in a time when it was much simpler and the pathway to the top was clear as day. It didn't bankrupt the family to get there, and you were playing with the best players. I mean, the process was very, very simple. But now everybody feels like they've got to go to the big name club because they're the super club that's going to have the nicest facilities and the best coaching and the in the end, I think most people who go through the process realize at some point that what they thought way back when on the beginning of their journey was not how it played out. And,
Yeah.
their kid is hopefully still in the game, but, might have just gotten burned out and left. And it's really sad. I hate it. I hate that it costs so much. I hate that there are so many things for families to consider when trying to navigate this very complicated web. It's hard to advise them, and I think everybody is different based on their circumstances.
Yep.
And they're it was just so simple, right? You played for your club team, you tried out for the state team. If you were good enough, you made it. You went from your state team, you trained with the best players in your area, and then you went to a regional event where the regional staff selected the best from the states that were in that area, put a team together, and boom, then you went to that. I mean, it was straightforward and so simple, so simple. And along the way, it's just become a big business, and there's a lot of people who are capitalizing on it. So
Well,
good for
it's
those who have
definitely
figured it
capitalism.
out. I sure haven't
So
figured it out, but
no, and we're not gonna. We're just gonna keep trying to help people out as much as we can. So in closing, and I always like to close with everybody is we got the World Cup coming, right? What is our mental effect? What do we feel like, at the water cooler, the week after the World Cup is over, all because I don't think the country, a lot of people weren't around for 94. What does it feel like if our national team fails or has great success? How does that make an impact on the game today after the
I
summer's over?
I'm worried. I've
Yeah,
been worried from the start. There's a lot of people say, "Yeah, we'll get out of our group." I hope we do. I just don't have a ton of confidence in previous performances, and you know, I'm sure Pochettino is a great coach and a great person, but it just feels to me that it was, it's good for him financially, and it's a good challenge that will springboard him into the next move. He knows he's gone at the end of this. He's not building anything.
yep.
And thank you very much. I'm out of here. I'll take my massive paycheck, and this has been great. See you later. Uh, does he have regrets for taking the job? I don't know. Was he at a stage in his career where he didn't have a whole lot of suitors knocking? And if that were the case, would he have ever accepted the challenge of U.S. soccer national team coach? I don't think it's easy. Um, it's interesting to see that the talent that the U.S. produces, the number of players that are playing internationally in good environments, the growth of the MLS, the competitiveness, all of that stuff. We should have better players, and I think if at you look at the players, nobody is going to say they're not talented.
Right.
It's just we okay, I'll sideline here real quick. I remember when I was coming up through the youth national team ranks, and even in even with the senior teams, you know, we traveled in minivans and we stayed in Holiday Inns and we ate at the Luby's in Texas, at a cafeteria,
Yeah.
right? And the world that is the national team these days is one I just don't recognize because I never had access to any of that. We were just, I mean, I remember when I was 16 playing in a World Cup, we played in tennis shirts. I mean, that was our uniform. It was a tennis shirt with a collar, and an iron on USA, three little letters, right? It was so meager compared to what the kids have today, staying in beautiful hotels and transport and yeah, just all the stuff. It's just a different world. It's
Yeah,
just
it is.
completely
Yeah,
different. And people talk about the lack of blue collar attitudes and desires and fights and things like that. Was it because of our environment? Was it because
yes,
we didn't have much?
yeah,
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. I mean, you look at talented young players who have to fight for everything. Those are the one I always hated playing um, South American or Central American or Latino teams down in Florida because we were chasing shadows and we were pretty good, but
yeah,
they were different level. We didn't know what that was all about. We were playing catch up in a game that we just didn't understand. It was too
yeah,
fast, it was too technical, it was all those things. Um, and I spent much of my career being naive,
right.
just because I wasn't exposed to that. But at the same time, I wouldn't trade my experiences for anything in the
Nah,
world, and I try and relate what I went through to what kids these days are probably going through at the upper levels and saying it is just a completely different world. And
yes,
so you look at our national team and you say, "Hey, are they privileged? Do they have too much? Do they have to work for anything? Does it not mean the absolute world to them?" I don't know. I don't know, but I could probably draw a parallel line and say, "Hmm, right, these are millionaires. They're living a lavish life. They've got everything handed to them on a silver platter. Maybe that's why it seems like our senior team isn't, uh,
scary.
bare knuckle, gritty. They're
Yep.
better players. They're better players. They're more talented, in many respects. But
Yeah, but
uh,
hey, you still got to give the results, and you got to fight for each other. And I think when you
true,
guys go
true,
through vans and you go through, so especially in the early days in the pro world, we did the same type of things. You had you had to bond. There was
yeah,
team bonding. It was just a natural environment. You were all surviving to get to the next place, right? Finding
sure,
that training ground, you know,
yeah,
finding good food. There was no dietitians. There was none of that stuff was involved. There wasn't, so you get, yeah, I believe it is a total mentality, but the stakes are higher today because the investment that's put into them, right? So,
sure,
I mean,
sure,
obviously, when we didn't make it the last time. Corporate America lost a lot of money. They weren't happy. It is all about capitalism, right?
sure,
But I think as a national player, you got to understand you're carrying a piano because it's a lot, not just for the country, but people who are actually supporting you to be in that event or to represent your country. Are they excited about representing their country, or is it just another
sure,
thing they got to
sure.
do on their schedule? So,
Right,
but anyway, listen, I appreciate you. Um, I love what we're doing. I got a couple people that have touched base with me that want to come on board with us as well, which are very talented people, which I'll let you know about as well. But
right,
everybody out there, this is one of our episodes. We're gonna be launching this very shortly. Um, you want a topic you want us to talk about? All right, get on USFTsports.org. Go to the bottom of the front page, hit our Facebook, follow our Facebook, and then give us a comment. Let us know. We'll talk about anything because we're going there's nothing that our toolbox has and the people we have in our organization that can't help you on your journey, whether you're a professional player, a player in the portal, in college, trying to figure out college, all the way down to the young babies, which I think is something that we've lost our way with. So, Erik, thank you so much. And I will touch base with you in the next day or so for sure, always. If you need something, give me a shout. And this is the reality of soccer that we have today. All right. Unplugged. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Erik.